Alright, you dumbasses, let's talk about the Civil War together. So, we already talked about why the Civil War started, so I ain't gonna go over that shit again. First off, the early battles. You got, that Fort Sumter thing that happened where, South Carolina just took a federal fort. Union kind of left. That happened. And then, first battle, the Battle of Manassas, or First Bull Run. Confederates whoop our asses because the Union is shit. Led by a guy named McDowell. It's really fucking terrible. So, after that, Lincoln's like, you fired, I'm gonna hire a guy named McClellan to lead the Army of the Potomac. Little did he realize he was shit too, but he was only fired later, so you gotta give it a moment. Also, meanwhile, the Confederacy's trying to get Britain to recognize them, but Britain already got all the cotton they need, so they're like, don't want to support no slave hole in the country, get the fuck out of my face. As you do. Let's see, moving on. We're also basically broke because the income we were getting before the war doesn't really help with the war because we need a lot more money to run a war. So that's pretty crazy. And, we weren't doing so well on the East Coast. McClellan, piece of shit. But we're doing well in the West, on the southern rivers and ports and shit. Like, we got this weird ironclad ship called the Monitor, and it beat the Merrimack enough that it would not come out again to fight. And so the South lost their hope of destroying the Union blockade. Close for the Union. What else? That's it on that page. But, and by the way, the Union has a blockade all around the coast of the South. Because, gotta prevent that trade from getting out there so that they can get broke faster. Meanwhile, another guy named Ulysses S. Grant conquers some forts and shit along the Mississippi River. And a guy named Derrick G. Farragut steams past some Confederate forts, captures New Orleans, and just goes like, fuck you, you thought we were coming from the north? Haha, get trolled. Oh, and while Grant was in Tennessee, he got fucked over by this Battle of Shiloh. Grant technically won, but it was also massive casualties on both sides. So both sides are like, God, fuck. It sucks. And so everybody on both sides now knows, well, shit. We can't exactly fight, like, a relatively not tens of thousands of death war. This is gonna be a tens of thousands of death war, isn't it? And yes, it fucking was. In the meantime, there's this Confederate Army of Northern Virginia going in, and it's going up against that earlier Army of the Potomac, headed up by McClellan. Again, piece of shit. He proceeds to try to go on a peninsular campaign of 1862, going for Richmond, and then he got his ass whooped by Lee. Is there a specific battle they want to mention? Yeah, because Stonewall Jackson is defending in Shenandoah Valley and keeping a lot of Tennessee in Confederate hands, and they go back again for another battle. They go again for another battle at Bull Run, where the Union gets its ass whooped again. So, Confederates better. Because most of the Northern generals suck. Ha! And then finally, the Confederate tries to get to Washington, D.C., and they start off by going to Antietam. And McClellan technically wins because both sides lose so many men that the Confederates gotta retreat. But McClellan didn't chase after Lee, just letting him kind of run back and be like, hey guys, can we get some more soldiers and things so we can go fight the North again? And so Lincoln's like, you motherfucking shit, you're fired. Oh, and I guess we're taking a break from the battles now to talk about emancipation. That was a thing that was going to happen. So first, we kind of went like, aha, all the slaves, they're contrabands, because they're property of the enemy. So we can take them and use them ourselves, aka free them slaves. Have some fun. Then this guy named Fremont tries to make a Fremont proclamation freeing any slaves supporting the rebellion, and Lincoln's like, whoa, 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 not yet. And also, you're not the president. Shut the fuck up. And for some reason, Lincoln also pursued the possibility of colonization, where all the freed slaves went back to Africa. People on either side didn't really want that shit to happen. So, yeah. And also, a lot of the North still don't like the idea of free blacks running around. So, you know. But eventually, we get to the point where we go like, hey, we're gonna do... Lincoln's like, we're gonna do an Emancipation Proclamation. Really prevent Britain from coming into the war and sowing chaos in the South. But this really starts to power up that Democratic Party. You know, with people like the Peace Democrats and the Copperheads coming together. Going like, hey, we gotta stop this war with the Confederates. I don't like them free black people. I don't give a fuck. They can be slaves. I don't care. Fuck you, Lincoln. You're such a despot. You're like a tyrant. You're like a king. What are you doing? And so, but what the Emancipation Proclamation also did was also got us some black soldiers who fought pretty much as well as white soldiers, you know, no shit. And doing stuff with the 54th Regiment, capturing stuff like the Fort Wagner, and eventually all of the black troops. It also basically forced the North to, you know, pay them equally to all the other troops, because for some reason that took a while. Who knows? Oh, and we're still taking a break from battles. We're going to talk about the Homefront now. Ooh. Basically, shortage of food, people don't like the war, riots happening everywhere, and, like, General Sherman at some point is just marching through the South, burning everything in his wake. But let's go into that in slightly more detail. So, the Confederate government never actually set up, like, a financial system, so they kind of were broke. And so everything is inflated in the South, and people can't get food. So you got food riots everywhere. You know, you got women going into cities doing bread riots. It's freaking crazy. You know, 50 civilians died in the South during the war. It's pretty crazy. And then in the North, you still basically as broke. You're basically as broke as ever. And then there's also this guy named Congressman Vallandigham, who emerges as the leader of the Peace Democrats and is immediately arrested after being accused as a Confederate sympathizer, and then exiled to Canada, exiled to the Confederacy, who then goes to Canada. And then he tries to run for office in Ohio, but he loses. Damn. And also, New York City is the center of opposition, because all them Irish Catholic Americans be like, wait, these free blacks gonna take all my jobs. What the fuck? No, I don't wanna fight no war for this shit. Fuck you. And so, you know, riots and shit. That happened. The New York Draft Riot. That's the worst riot in American history. And only the arrival of federal troops ended that violence. So Oh, important thing about money, we also created the IRS at this time. Whoa, yeah, that's crazy. Like, really? This time? And we also started making stuff called greenbacks, which is, you know, dollar bills, because we couldn't, like, actually pay on stuff backed by gold or silver as security. We just went like, we'll promise we'll pay you for it. And so this was the beginning of greenbacks and the IRS. Weird, right? It's crazy. Oh yeah, Missouri's a thing, and all those border ruffians from earlier, they're rising up and killing peoples now. Also, all them Indian tribes are fighting over, hey, do we fight against the North or the South? And eventually, both sides kill the Indian, so sucks. Sucks, dude. Alright, and back to the main battles. McClellan was fired. There's another guy named Hooker, he was fired. And there's another guy named Meade, he was fired. And then he realized, wait, that Grant guy in the West, he's been winning a lot. Those tactics, those bloody, brutal tactics, that just might win me the war. And so, Grant is now overall commander of the armies for the Civil War. Oh, wait, we gotta go back a bit. Hooker did Gettysburg. Or no, Meade did Gettysburg. Hooker tried to fight the South and failed. As far as I can tell. Ow, give me a sec. Oh, right. Hooker went to do the Battle of Chancellorsville and failed. And so, after failing at Chancellorsville, Lee took the army north and went like, you know what? If we win in the north, that'll show them. So they try to go to Pennsylvania, and they get fought at the Battle of Gettysburg, where there's that famous Pickett's charge that basically charged into Union artillery and rifle fire. That did not work so well. And, yeah. So the Confederates are driven back, and the new commander, Meade, who's in charge in the battles of Gettysburg, didn't chase after them again. So he was fired. Finally, Grant has taken direct control and starts, like, fighting battles with high casualties. And he's chasing, dude. He's chasing. Because he just captured Vicksburg on the Mississippi River, so they got control of the Mississippi River. They cut the Confederacy in half. It's crazy. Oh, yeah, and there's this battle at a place called Cold Harbor where Grant, like, took way too many casualties. Like, whoa, whew, okay, can't take that many casualties now. We don't have enough men for that. Then he starts to siege this place called Petersburg. Oh, and we also have to talk about how technology happened. Technology happened! We have better guns now that, like, spin bullets and kill shit better. And we have cannons with actual grape shot and artillery instead of just, like, cannonballs. So, like, and also, medicine is fucking terrible, which I'm about to talk about. And so, yeah. People be dying. Shit ton. And finally, Grant is sieging Petersburg in Virginia, and that's where we're leaving off the battles for now, for some stupid reason. Right. Medicine. Medicine sucked, so women started to nurse and care for the wounded, with Elizabeth Blackwell, the first American woman MD, organizing the Sanitary Commission. And remember that person, Dorothea Dix? Well, she was named the superintendent of female nurses and organized people to also serve for that Sanitary Commission. And also people, like Clara Barton, who later made the Red Cross, became nurses helping wherever they could. And so, yeah. Healing people. It's crazy. And women in the South did kind of the same thing, trying to get into hospitals, healing people. Which is funny, because, like, in the South, they're like, oh, no, you're too delicate and modest and refined. And the women were like, bitch, we gotta save some lives. So they went to do so. Oof. Okay. And so, politics was catching up to Lincoln, because there was a lot of casualties, and we weren't exactly, like, super duper winning, and so we had to win something, or the Democrats were going to gain popularity and win the election, and then we wouldn't end the war instantly. So, what happened, though, was that good old William Tecumseh Sherman basically just marched his ass down to Atlanta and then Savannah, and just burned and captured everything along the way, and just killed shit. And all of those victories basically allowed Lincoln to win the election. It was pretty cool. And also, You know that Farragut guy from earlier? Well, he just went like, hey, there's another port city called Mobile Bay over there in Alabama. Let's take it. And so there were a bunch of torpedoes there, and one of his ships sunk. But he's like, damn the torpedoes, sport full speed ahead. And so he captured Mobile, Alabama. That was a thing. And so with all these victories, Lincoln defeated McClellan, which was the candidate for the Democrats for some reason. He's like a failed general. I don't know. And so Sherman just continues marching around the South, just like taking whatever he can and burning everything else, making the South like traumatized. Like they already were starting to not like the war, and then they're like traumatized with this guy like coming in and stealing all their stuff and burning all their homes and stuff down. So yeah. Oh, and then finally we get to that, like, you know, Appomattox part, the Appomattox courthouse part, where so after Grant sieges Petersburg, Lee abandons Petersburg and also Richmond, and so eventually he just surrenders. And yeah, Grant and Lee were actually old army buddies, so, you know, they talked for a little bit, and they're like, oh, right, we gotta negotiate surrender terms. And so Grant was like, alright, all soldiers, you could keep your horses and mules to help plant crops and stuff, and you all gonna get food. And yeah. Jefferson Davis fled south until he got arrested, and the Civil War was basically over. So, right? Yep. Cool. Oh, after the war, the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution. Slavery was abolished. Crazy. And also, Lincoln was going like, alright guys, we gotta get the states all together, all the rebelling states, we gotta be nice. They are our countrymen. We gotta rebuild, we gotta reconstruct, and we gotta do this right. So we must take action. And immediately after saying that, he went to a Ford theater and got shot in the back of the head. Sucks. That's the end of the chapter. Have fun.